first his father, then Sri Vijaya Krishna, then Sri Yukteswarji. Then he received second Kriya from Yogananda Baba, third Kriya from Satyananda Baba, the remaining Kriyas from and further teachings from Sanyal Mahashaya. But never for a moment was he without the teachings, even if he wasn't in the physical presence of his masters. And he served them constantly. Guruji has said, the way to live with the master is to live with the teachings, transform within, and reflect on our manner and our conduct. And that we learn from the life of Sri Gurudev. So, living with the masters. Gurudev also lived a life of discipline, and importantly of self-discipline. Guruji writes in this book that to him, being a disciple is to be willing to discipline oneself. There's a nice story in this of the complete discipline of Sri Gurudev. He lived with discipline in every aspect of his life. Discipline in food, discipline in conduct, discipline in sadhana, discipline in everything. But there's a nice story here. Guruji was sitting with Gurudev and they were in a Kriya initiation program. And halfway through, Gurudev gets up and leaves the hall. Guruji, thinking he may need something, follows along with him. And he finds Gurudev clipping and filing his nails. Because he said, Baba, if my nails are too long, I might accidentally injure the students during initiation. So let me keep them short. And then he goes on to say, to be a guru is not easy. Even the fingernails should be disciplined. So if we wish to traverse the pathway of a disciple, we must give discipline to ourselves. And in order to do that, we should have discipline in all aspects of our lives. Importantly, the disciple may receive some discipline from the master. And we should be careful, we should be joyful. We talked yesterday about being grateful if we get a correction from the master. We talked about how in the presence of a master, the disciple should never sit insolently. And actually, once we've received a sharp criticism or correction from our guru, it's easy to feel that red hot flush and sit there with, isn't it? But the disciple should never be reactive and should always be responsive to that discipline. If it's received from the master, it's prasad, so it should be taken in that kind of way. If we receive some tic-tac prasad, as some received in the day program, or if we might receive some fruit prasad or some nut prasad, we're happy. If we receive correction prasad, are we also happy? We must be happy in the same way. And Guruji says it's not easy to be, discipline is a daunting task, how to do it. He says in this book, not to worry, Rome was not built in a day. So it is possible, step by step, one step at a time. So there are a few more lessons that I'd love to share with you. Another lesson that Guruji points to is that Gurudev lived a life of love. And Baba has spoken, he spoke in Australia, he spoke a little bit here about how there is partial love. I love Melma, I love this cushion, this pen I love. But that love is partial, it's not complete love. The life of spirituality is unconditional love, pure love. We've been talking a little bit about the lives of great masters. Guruji says, great people's lives are filled with the fire of love. And we spoke in the day retreat about how that fire can light other fires, one by one by one. being undiminished itself. So it takes nothing from the it takes nothing from one candle to light another candle, isn't it? So it takes nothing from pure love to light love in somebody else. And Guruji says his love was pure, his love was unconditional. What Guruji says in this book, I have seen Gurudev's hidden tears of love and compassion. And there's one story that I wanted to share with you. It is my favorite Gurudev story. In one of the programs in Karar Ashram, it was very full. And so people were sleeping wherever they could sleep. In the meditation hall, on the balconies, wherever they could find space. And so Gurudev, at the end of the night, when people were sleeping, went and looked, just to make sure everything was okay, everybody was all right. And Guruji was following on with him. And when he came to the meditation hall, he saw one disciple who was shivering with a fever. And so Gurudev took off his own shawl and he wrapped that disciple in the shawl, tucked him in, and then quietly went along his way. Guruji came back the following morning to see what happened next. So we have the account of it. So that disciple woke up and found himself wrapped in Gurudev's shawl, and he had tears. Of course, you could imagine. I have tears telling the story. You can imagine his state. And so he carefully folded up the shawl and took it to Sri Gurudev when his door opened up. And Gurudev said, no, you keep this shawl and you wear it when you meditate. And when you meditate, feel that your Guru is embracing you. And so you can imagine this disciple, if he was a blithering messer out at the first point, at the end he was completely. This was the love of Gurudev. The shawl from his own back to make sure that his disciple was warm enough and not suffering. And so whoever came to Gurudev, Guruji writes, felt that love. We have people here who felt that love. Those of us who even didn't meet him, still we feel that love, isn't it? So if we can feel that love from Gurudev, let us be like the lamp that carries that love in ourselves, and others should feel Gurudev's love. One day somebody should say about us, oh, from that person I felt the love of their Gurus. That is a beautiful disciple. So Gurudev also lived in a way that every small gesture and every small smile was a medium for communicating his love. So the communication of love does not need to be huge gesticulations or large proclamations, but just in small things we can carry the love of our Gurus and gift it to others. Just in small smiles and small gestures, in little things, they can have a huge impact. So Gurudev also lived a life of service, as we know. Guruji says, cows always give more milk, healthy cows give more milk than is needed by their calves. And the Divine Master is like that also, giving more than is needed for any one person, constantly. Again, the question is, can we digest it? But Gurudev's service knew no bounds. So Guruji told some stories in Australia about how he used to carry around a bag of medicines. And somebody would say, oh, my kundalini is rising in a weird way. And Gurudev would say, take this pill. It's indigestion. So he was constantly caring and taking care. But also we know that when Master gives us some medicine, the medicine's doing something, but often something else is going on, isn't it? So we take it. But also, Gurudev even learnt some medical science so that he could treat the sick and the needy and the poor who had no access to doctors. He gave his love and his service to everybody, to people who might be considered, from an orthodox point of view, in a lower station of life, Westerners like all of us, travelling around. Can you believe? I learnt this from reading this book. Orthodox people in Puri, when Baba would walk around, when Gurudev would walk around, they would call out to him, and I might not get Partha Baba or Devjani Ma will be able, Mlecha Guru? Mlecha? Is it Mlecha?
Mlecha.
Mlecha. Guru of the unclean, they called him.
Wow.
Can you believe it? Our Gurudev, they called that out to him on the street. And it, not just once, it was something that was said over and over again. Gurudev, I think if any of us were there, we would have reacted poorly, had we known. But Gurudev digested it with love. But this was the kind of sacrifice that it wasn't just, serving wasn't easy. This was not the easy path for Gurudev. He served in the hardest ways, in ways that had him ridiculed in the streets of Puri. Can you believe? But he lived a life completely of service. What we can learn from such a life. And that service was always given without any expectation. Guruji said in the retreat in Australia, spiritual life is to give, give, give. Give all that you can. And we see this in the life of Sri Guruji and Gurudev. We've talked about, I've shared with you how much I love the disciples of Neem Karoli Baba. And there was one great Indian disciple who was being asked about questions of marriage and romance and so forth. And he was asked a question, and his response, Mr. Tiwari he was, his response was, look, in the world there's all kinds of business and transactions. You give something, you get something. It's fine, do your business, be happy, be joyful. But understand, true love has nothing to do with business. True love has nothing to do with what we get in return for what we give. True love gives and gives and gives all that it can. True love, Guruji tells us, cares only for others. There's a nice quote here. Sri Gurudev said, give food to the hungry, medicine to the sick, education to the poor children, and inspiration and strength to the weak and fearful. Inspiration and strength to the weak and fearful. We all have the ability to serve selflessly, but how much are we really willing to sacrifice? Gurudev gave everything for others. We can learn a lot from that. One final lesson that Guruji talks about. It was Gurudev's simplicity and economy. So, when Gurudev went to Karar Ashram was not a well-off ashram. And food was really a problem. So the students would bring, when they would come for meditation, they would bring an offering of a handful of rice. And that rice was collected. And of course, some of that rice was coarse, some of it had, some of it was refined, some of it, and so it was quite a mixture. So they would cook that rice. Guruji says, after that rice was cooked, some of it was soft, but some of it obviously was not. Baba says, dal was a delicacy and mashed potatoes were a dream. Dal was a delicacy and mashed potatoes were a dream. Often the meals consisted of boiled pumpkin creepers and whatever vegetables grew in that, at that time, very sandy garden. Gurudev changed all that, but in Kararasham at that time it was mainly sandy. A small bowl of puffed rice and nothing else was served at breakfast. But Gurudev found ways to make do. He tilled that garden in Kararasham and made it full of flowers and fruits. Very simply he lived, though, just within his means. Why? Because service was more important than how he lived. There's a nice story about how Gurudev used to write letters. So he would write. So he would get much correspondence from disciples around the world. And so he would read, he would get all of the, for example, all of the United States letters together. And he would write on a single piece of paper. He would write all of the letters, like little letters to everybody, and right next to them the address that these letters were to be sent to. And then that one page would be sent to a disciple in the US who would snip out each of the tiny letters, stick it on a postcard and send it, or put it in an envelope and write the address and send it. So much was Baba's care about, let us not waste money, let us do it in as efficient and economical way as possible, and use that money for some other noble purpose. So Guruji was the economist, but Gurudev was the economical one. And also, we see this kind of economy in the way that Gurudev also thought about time. Gurudev used to say that time must be treated very preciously, because in fact life is time. And so he was very regular in every part of his life, using every moment to maximum service benefit. And once he said to Guruji, who was travelling on the bus to come and see Gurudev daily, he said to Guruji, Baba, don't spend so much time on the bus. Come and see me on the weekends, or come and see me once a week, something like that. But Guruji is a great economist, and he knows. He said to Baba, Baba, this time, none of this time is spent or wasted. It's all invested. It's my investment in my time with you, Gurudev, and it will pay. It will pay off. I will realize this investment. And so we should think about our time. Where do we spend it? Where do we invest it? From the life of Sri Gurudev, we can see that good investment of our time, the life of Sri Gurudev and Sri Guruji, good investment of time, you can conquer the whole world. Bad investment of time, you have to come back and do it all over again. So let us invest our time beautifully and well. So this was a whirlwind tour of some of the messages that I found in this book. Some messages from the life of Sri Gurudev. Living with a goal and a mission, living with humility and while thinking high, adjusting and accommodating, living with the masters, living a life of discipline, a life of love, a life of service, giving without any expectation, and living with simplicity and economy. But I read those lines, I read those pages, and I took those lessons. And I sat back and I thought, what's the lesson that I take from all of that? And to tell you very honestly, as a disciple, I really wept when I finished that book. Because when you see the life of Gurudev and the way that he lived, his intense sadhana for so many years, traveling at 67, living this itinerant life for years and years and years before that Miami ashram came. So many hardships, so many thorns that he had to withstand. all of this, he did it for us. That Divine Master did all of this so that we could come to the path of spirituality and that others can come to the path of spirituality. So for me, as a disciple, I look at that life and I think how grateful we should all be. The number one lesson for me from the life of Gurudev is a lesson of gratitude. This great divine being sacrificed his life over and over again for us. So the lesson I propose that we take from looking at the life of Sri Gurudev is a lesson of gratitude. And if he can sacrifice like that, what tiny thing can we do to be worthy of that? Baba read a poem in Australia that Gurudev loved. Oh God, oh Guru, you have given me so much. What can I give you in return? Let me sacrifice this I-ness, my ego, and I will get the taste of immortality. So let us sacrifice this little I-ness and inherit that all-abiding happiness that Gurudev wants for us, Guruji wants for us, that God wants for us. Then we will be worthy disciples of such a great master. Please close your eyes. I'll read you the words of Sri Guruji. O beloved Gurudev, you are our life. You are our breath. You are our thoughts. You are our strength. You are our knowledge. You are our treasure. You are our happiness. You are our tears. You are our mother, and you are our father. You are our sister, and you are our brother. You are our companion. You are our friend. You are our sadhana, and you are our siddhi. You are our heaven. You are our paradise. Oh beloved Gurudev, your life is for us. Your sadhana is for us. Your teachings are for us. Your smile is for us. Your dream is only for us. Your hard work is for us. Your suffering and sickness are also because of us. We strive to serve you and love you by following your words and applying them in our lives. Please forgive our shortcomings and guide us always. Purnasya